Hello, and welcome to the Southcoast Artist Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more. The Southcoast Artist Index podcast is brought to you in part by Heavenly Spirits, who invites you to celebrate the art of life and creative communities everywhere. Learn more at heavenlyspirits.com.
Welcome to the Artist Index. I'm Scott Bishop, your host for this episode. I'm a New Bedford-based singer, songwriter, and sound sculptor making music under the name Scapegoat, and I also present a live concert series, Unexpected Music, which features South Coast musicians performing in non-traditional performing spaces around New Bedford. The In Focus podcasts are generously sponsored in part by Heavenly Spirits Importers and funded in part with grants from the New Bedford Cultural Council and the Fairhaven Cultural Council, local agency supported by the Mass Cultural Council, a state agency. And now I'd like to invite our guest to introduce himself, spell his name, and tell us a little bit about himself.
What's up, everybody? My name is Adam Gomes, ADAMGOMES. That's where you can find me. I am a private music instructor. I teach out of the Cape. I also do full-time with my band Immuter, currently the bass player and the backup vocalist. And on top of that, I just like to work with other musicians around the city, a couple of people that I've just talked to and jammed with a little bit. Route 18, The Concept. This Friday, actually, I got a gig with Sean Carney. So starting to get a decent name for myself out there. So that's who I am. Glad to meet everybody.
And you also have Paul Santos live, right?
Absolutely. How did I leave that out?
Oh, I don't know, but I was checking out a couple of episodes. So you're the house band. Immuter is the house band for that. How did that come about?
So, God, it was about 6 months ago now. Paul Santos just asked us to come on and be guests. And we had such good chemistry and we had so much fun that we just offered to him, like, hey, man, like, we're not doing anything next Monday if you want us to come back. And he was like, maybe. And then the following week, he was like, yeah, you can come back in because we don't have a music guest. So we came back that following week, and then he said, hey, I'm looking to have like a house band kind of deal. And what are you guys doing on Mondays? And we said, at the time, nothing. We had nothing going on. So we're like, yeah, you know what? We'll just come in, play a few bumps, play a few tunes, and then, it'd be a nice way to like segue segments and everything. And ever since then, we've just been really cool with Paul, and he's just been letting us play for him.
That's awesome. And that's at Pub 65, right? In the North End?
Actually, it got moved to Ryan's. Well, no, I'm sorry, not Ryan's. The Whalers Inn.
Oh, okay.
Which, yeah, Ryan's and Whalers Inn. I mean, it's like one big thing. But we every Monday we're in the dining room, ballroom type deal. It's just like a big open room. You can't miss it. So.
Oh, nice. And how long have you been doing that?
The Paul Santos show? I would say about like actually being a house band 4 to 5 months, but been in contact with Paul for about 6.
Nice. And aside from that, the band is pretty busy. I saw you had the gig at the festival up in Freetown just last week. And also I caught the clip from Wheeler College where you guys are playing in late May?
Wheaton.
Oh, so many different W college names, but that was a really lively looking show. How did that go out on?
Dude, I mean, it all seems like it just happens. You know what I'm saying? So actually, the singer's brother, he goes to Wheaton College, and he just knows the dude that's in charge of parties and everything. Like school actually ran events, not just like the kids themselves. They were looking for an act to play about a month and a half ago, and they just hired us. And I mean, it was like super like last minute. We had to go out and get a stage. We had to set up all just do everything. But we had such an incredible reception that when they had their they call it the spring concert series, where they have usually like a big act come out. They've had Doja Cat, they've had J. Cole, like really.
Big names. Yeah,
that's what I said. I was like, for a college, like that's kind of crazy. So they had such a good reception to us that when their big act that came this year, Jeremy Zucker came, they were like, hey, you guys want to come out and play for an hour, play your original stuff and let the crowd, hype them up a little bit? we went out, did our thing, man, and it was easily the best show of my life. If if it all went away today, I'd be very happy with what we did that day.
Yeah, the clip is posted on the Immuter website, immuter.com. It's a great clip because the cameraman's right on the stage with you. He's going around to each of you. Each of you's like, playing along, but looking in the camera, and you're rocking out. And that crowd was really into it. That must have been a heck of a gig to play.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And actually, I want to give a shout out to that guy recording the video because that's our boy, Danny Lux. Danny, very good friend of ours, and he's just so invested in the band that he decided he wanted to help out as much as he can. So it's either, he's running our sound for us or he's recording videos. This kid is so dedicated to helping us. Big shout out to Danny, the Deluxe.
Nice. He did a great job. And the other thing that struck me about that clip is because a little over a year ago, you guys did a Vaha mini concert inside No Problemo that I got you booked for. And I think the thing that struck me was that the energy that I saw you guys display at the college was that's the same energy you guys had recording in the No Problemo dining room with just the four of you. I mean, do you guys just bring that energy every time, whether it's like, no one's in the room, 5 people, 500, whatever?
So I'll tell you this. One time there was a little bit of a booking issue and there was a date messed up with the VFW show that we had. And I kid you not, we played for one dude at the bar and we played for our singer's parents. That was the crowd. Wow. Right? Yeah. And for 3 hours, we played like we were at Madison Square Garden, sold out. And that's just always been our energy for like every single show. Like if you're going to sit there by yourself and, listen to us play, we're going to give it 110% every single time. We don't like to sit around, mope around. We just play song after song energy.
It's incredible because I've been in that situation and it can be really hard to sustain energy and, connect even with the 3 people for you guys to come out there roaring like, it's like, hey, one person, 1,000, 10,000, doesn't matter. We're bringing the same thing every time. Let's go back to Immuter's beginning. How did this band start?
So Immuter started well before I was even thought of in the band. I want to say like 8 years ago. It was formed with the drummer and the singer. Both of them are next door neighbors, still are, and it makes practice super easy because it's just walking next door, So they just got together every single day. They're hanging out. The drummer at the time had a little pad that he was just, doing paradiddles and stuff like that. And the singer, he's just always been messing around with his guitar and singing. And for the longest time, the band consisted of a drum pad, one guitar, and the singer, and that's it. You okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Okay, I thought you spilled your drink.
No, I'm okay. It was the sheet almost dropped off my desk.
Oh, you're good. You're good. All right. So yeah, and then I want to say 4 or 5 years later, the guitarist actually found the band through somebody mentioning it at a Marshall's.
At a Marshall's?
Yeah,
like somebody. The store?
Yeah, like the store. He was if I'm not mistaken, the guitarist was working at Marshall's. I feel so bad because he's in my band and I don't know the full story. But he basically somebody who was working at Marshall's was talking to him about the band. And then he checked him out. And then it's funny because now that I'm in charge of the Facebook page, I can see the messages that he sent back in like 2018. And he was like, dude, I love your guys' sound. Like, is there any way, do you need another guitarist? And they're like, my singer was just like, yeah, dude, just come on down. We'll take whatever we can get.
Oh my God, that's wild.
And then lastly, a year later, for this whole time, ever since it started getting more serious, the father, who is actually our sound guy now, was the bass player. So not only was he doing sound, but he was also playing the bass for the band. Danny, the singer, came to one of my shows at UMass when I was doing I think I was in the guitar ensemble. And he was like, hey, man, I know you've been playing guitar for like your entire life. And we've known each other for like a decade and a half. But we're looking for a bass player, man. And I was like, you know what? I got free Wednesday nights. Let's just try it. Ever since then, it's been the best decision of my life. And it's been 2 years of all 4 of us, but 8 years as like the band existing.
So there was basically the idea of a band with your drummer and singer and rhythm guitar player. So let's name folks first, because I'm going to get lost naming the roles.
I got
you. What's your drummer's name?
Ross.
All right. Oh, actually, I remember this. So I talked to Sarah Donner, who's a cousin of your drummer, Ross, last week for this same podcast. Pretty funny. And your singer and first guitar player?
Okay, so our singer is Dan. His name is Daniel, but we just call him Vasquez because our lead guitarist is also Dan. So it's gonna be yeah. So it's gonna be I'm gonna just refer to him as Vasquez and Hurley.
Vasquez and Hurley. Otherwise, you say Dan. Two guys turn around. What are you talking to me for?
Yep. And then also the sound guy I mentioned before. His name's also Dan. Oh. So yeah, there's 3 Dans. So I just go by last names at this point.
Oh, right. Well, gotta keep it straight somehow. So by the time that you joined, was the sound of the band pretty well defined?
They definitely did have a sound, and it was a lot more, I would say like Muse, Radiohead, that kind of like ambient sound. It wasn't until I came in that like I grew up listening to, a lot of metal and stuff, but I'm also, professionally trained in jazz. So I came in a little bit more with a more aggressive tone, a little bit more just oomph. There's some songs that have, ever since I joined it, did a 180. There's a bunch of songs that remain true to what they were, but definitely like the Immuter, if you've ever seen us live. Oh, you saw, oh yeah. That used to be, that used to be almost like a ballad. And that's what I transformed it into. Like, it's definitely, some things changed, some things stayed the same.
I noticed actually with the No Problemo concert that, your bass is a little fuzzed out. You bring a little bit of grit and drive to your bass, which gives a little bit of that aggression along with the energy that you and Ross have.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also amazing to hear, like one guy coming in the band with a slightly different sound suddenly changes the whole arrangement for the song. It goes from ballad to like, this could be a real up-tempo rocker, but it still has the spacey elements. Like you don't lose absolutely. That along the way. How does songwriting work in the band? Is there a songwriter? Is it a group effort?
So Vasquez is really the stone when it comes to that. He's constantly writing and doing a lot of compositions. Now, my thing is, like I said, I'm trained in jazz, so a lot of the stuff I write is instrumental. So Vasquez will bring a little bit more of a band appropriate song, and I usually bring kind of just like that weird abstract, just instrumental stuff. And then we take a bunch of his ideas, and then, we take, a few of my ideas, as long as they mesh well together, and we end up writing a lot of really cool stuff. Ross and Hurley, they usually are just very go with the flow, and they're just not into the whole songwriting process. They love the playing aspect, but sitting down and really going over like harmonies and stuff, it's just not their thing. And, it's not everybody, so we get it.
They're more in the arranging side. Like you've brought them a song and you've got a lot of the parts sorted out. Now they're coming in and Ross is establishing more of the rhythmic side. I mean, the other thing I noticed is that, between you and your 2 guitarists, like each of you can carry the melodic load. Like your bass lines are not just strict root notes. Like you're playing a lot of melodic stuff. You'll go up the neck to kind of solo a little bit. And both of the guitar players do that. How do you guys kind of carve out that territory when you're working on a song? Is it because the parts are already written? Or do you kind of feel that out as you get to know the song as a band?
So our thing is that we never want to step on toes. And there's definitely just some songs where one of us just feel that song a little bit more. And we have no problem just saying to each other, like, hey, for this part, I kind of want to have a moment to myself. On our new song, Rocky, that we just recorded, Ross actually has a solo because he was like, this is my thing and I'm feeling this rhythm. I want a little piece to myself. And then, same thing with, like I mentioned, the Immuter, like it's a loud, angry song. It could use that shredding, solo stuff. And I fit the bar there. And then, when something like the song It Almost, which we also just recorded for all this is for our EP, that little spacey, vibey kind of solo, that's his thing. And then he has no problem stepping up to the plate and playing that thing. And that's usually just how it goes. Like we communicate to each other what we think would add to the song. And 10 out of 10 times, man, we love everything that each other write and we just go with it. Yeah. That's
great. Cause you also talk through it. Like a lot of bands don't talk through it. They're kind of like fighting for their territory. You guys talk about what could work ahead of time. That's really powerful.
Yeah. And there's like, there's been a couple of times where we might say like, hey, I don't think a solo or something, whatever it may be, is going to work at this point. But like I said, 10 out of 10 times when we do have a solo and we do actually play it, it always works. And we're always happy to just give somebody the spotlight, even if it's for like a 10-second, 12 bar little cadence,
Everybody gets to shine.
Yeah.
I think that comes through, particularly with the No Problemo concert, which I've mentioned a few times. If you go to the AHA New Bedford Facebook page and search for that on their video page, you can find that because it's like a 20-minute performance. Molly O'Leary is in the second half of that doing a solo acoustic thing. It's really excellent. That was my introduction. I think I found you guys on Bandcamp because I just searched New Bedford. Like, I wanted to know who was out there and I was booking this show. I'm like, okay, who's in New Bedford? And it's amazing. If you go to Bandcamp, how many bands are, New Bedford, Fall River, just general South Coast area. Which reminds me, how long have you lived in the South Coast? Did you grow up here?
Oh yeah, 100%. New Bedford, born and raised. It's in my blood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's linguiça and Portuguese. That's it. That's my blood.
And what was your first instrument? When did you first start playing music?
So, typical, everybody did this, first, second grade, they put a recorder in your face and say, all right, kid, play hot cross buns. My first actual serious instrument that I was really taking lessons for, nobody knows this, I was a sax player. Wow. Long time ago. And I'm talking like elementary school, like maybe third grade. Did it for a couple of years, but I don't know what happened to that guy. He ended up quitting and I went to a different school. And then it wasn't until I got to middle school that I just got into the guitar.
Who are your guitar? Sorry, go ahead.
No, what were you about to say, Mark? I
was just about to ask. I'm like, who were your guitar heroes when you started picking up the instrument?
I'm so glad that you said guitar heroes because the reason why I got into the guitar is because I played the game Guitar Hero. And at the time, I grew up listening to like rap and hip hop. My father used to influence me a lot when it came to music because he would always play. My mom never really listened to music, but my dad would blare the radio, and it was always like Dr. Dre, Snoop, Cypress Hill, Eminem, all that stuff. And then I was into video games, still am, and my mother got me Guitar Hero, and I beat that game on Expert, and I fell in love with all this new music that I've heard for the first time. I'm talking like Rage Against the Machine. Obviously like Guns N' Roses, this is all first time stuff that I'm hearing within like a week span. And I was like, this is amazing. Beat the game. And then I said to my mom, I want a guitar. I want to do this for real. She got me a wicked cheap Lion that I actually still keep because, it never gets played anymore, but it's definitely like a roots kind of thing. And ever since then, I taught myself. But for actual people that inspire me, Pat Metheny is definitely one of the bigger ones. I really like Steve Vai, but definitely people that are more experimental. Tom Morello, all those guys.
I remember watching a video of Tom Morello trying to play Guitar Hero and failing at it. It's like a totally different skill set, but then you went the other way. Like, I love this, and it turned you on to guitar, and that just carved out your path for music.
The Guitar Hero got me good at shredding and like moving my forearm to, but actually playing notes. Yeah, no, that did not translate over at all.
You had to put the work in for that one.
Oh yeah.
When you picked up the bass, I mean, did you look at different bass players? Because that's a totally it's a stringed instrument, but it's a totally different thing to deal with than a 6-string electric.
One name, Flea.
Oh,
that's it. Huge Red Hot Chili Peppers guy. Got really into him. It wasn't until that, the band got like really serious for me that I started looking at other people, to name a couple, Victor Wooten, Thundercat, all those cats are just phenomenal bass players.
And you're also a music teacher. How long have you been teaching?
I want to say 2.5 years now. It started off with me just independent. UMass doesn't have anything going on the weekends. So I would just like go into the school and have people just meet up with me at UMass, and I would teach out of there. It wasn't until after quarantine and everything was done that I landed my gig at House of Jams.
Nice. And how many students do you have at this point? How much time do you spend teaching?
So a lot of my kids are half hours, but I also have quite a few 45-minute kids and a few hour kids. And I think I'm at 46.
46 kids?
Yes.
Wow.
So by the time this airs, it's okay. I can say it. One of the instructors is leaving, and my boss knows that I do really well just meshing with new people, and they're mostly just guitar students. So my boss just said, you know, Adam, you want to work an extra day? I said, absolutely. So now I took on his day, and I'm at, 46. Right now, technically, I'm at like 31, 32. But once this Tuesday comes in, I start working that shift, it's going to bump me to the 46.
So basically, music is your full-time gig.
Oh, yeah, this is all I do.
That's awesome. That's the dream.
Oh, I love it.
Getting back to Immuter quickly, you mentioned an EP you're recording. How many songs? When can we expect to hear it? Because I love the 5 singles that I can find on Spotify, and I want to hear more.
Yes, so we have The Passerby, and then we actually recorded another 4, and I'm definitely going to say it's going to be a lot sooner than later. The issue with is that, our drummer works union job, and getting that recording time is hard. But now that he's got his drum parts recorded and everything, the process is just flying by, and we're hoping before even August. Realistically, we're aiming to get it done before even July. So,
and can you describe like your recording process? Because I think, a lot of people hear records and they don't know what goes into it. Like having completed drum tracks is itself a really big project. How do you guys approach recording? How do you build that stuff up?
So we actually have a really nice recording studio in our singer's basement, and it's not like top of the line stuff, but definitely we're able to get a lot done. And we make a bunch of reference tracks, scratch tracks, whatever you want to call it. And we just do all this stuff in the comfort of our home, and we just really, really experiment. Like we will have a song done and we will think it's perfect. And then even then we'll still be like, let's try and mess around with a couple of things and see what works, And we just basically record everything that we can, everything that we're going to keep. We trash everything that we have even a slight about it. We just scrap it. And we eventually take everything and we go see our buddy Kenny Lewis up in Boston, Middleton. And we just record with him. And you are not joking. Anybody that's listening, recording drums is the worst part of recording. It is.
It's time, because just getting the drum sound, it's an art and a science, and you could be there for a while. Just, that snare sounds a little off. Mm-hmm. We got a little weird bleed going on. It's really, that can be like a whole day or more, just getting the sound.
And the worst part is, we spent so long miking the drums a lot of times because we had to record on separate days. And, you can't have a drum track sound different in every single song. It just throws off the whole thing, You want there to be some continuity. So, man, the recording guy he's a drummer. He's been a drummer his whole life, teaches it. And he's also been a, studio kind of guy. Dude, it's still like a 2-hour process. You have to set up, you have to set up the drums themselves, set up all the mics, do just a quick run of just everything to see how it works. And then from there, you're fine tuning. And I'm talking like millimeters will throw off a sound. People underestimate how much effort it goes into that. I have it easy. I'm a bass player, so I just direct input into the thing. Yep. I'm done. I love it.
That's the easiest part of sound. But I've heard of situations where the room got more humid. We have to adjust the mics. Like even the air conditions can change stuff. So you might go in one day and record. The next day you come back, the conditions have changed if you're not in a real climate controlled environment. And suddenly it's like, well, we have to shuffle stuff around. This doesn't quite sound like it did yesterday when we set up.
Exactly.
It's really tricky. And from there you get the drum tracks. What comes next? Are you building from bass, guitars?
Yeah. So it's always drums and bass. Drums first, bass second. Ross and I really, dude, I don't know what it is, but we always have such an insane chemistry. And even I know I'm what's that word? I already have a bias. Yeah, I'm biased toward, but dude, even just listening to drum and bass tracks of him and I, unmixed and everything, just raw tracks, you can just hear how in sync him and I are, and I take such pride in that. And then once drums and bass are done, it's pretty much a cakewalk because you already have such a strong foundation. Vasquez and Hurley are able to come in with their musical tracks. Vasquez also does play a lot of the guitar. I know I say he's a rhythm guitar and everything, but he does take on a few lead tracks. You know, if he wrote them originally, it's just sometimes it's easier for him to get that done. And then once his vocals come in, dude, it's the cherry on top.
You talked about, you know, how tight you and Ross are musically. I mean, was it like that out of the gate? What did it take to get you there if it wasn't right there at the start?
100%. Like the first song that we ever played together, we were laughing. I've never met this kid before. He tells me we laugh about this story all the time. He tells people all the time that the first time he saw me, he just based off of my appearance, he was like, this dude is not going to work out in the band.
Nice. Great first impression there.
So, all right. So for reference, I had just done a show at UMass and I'm wearing like a full on suit and I'm going to an audition kind of like, you know, it's winter time and it's okay to wear like, you know, warm clothes and everything, but everybody's kind of like in shorts and t-shirts and they're playing rock. And I show up with like my semi hollow body guitar as just like a backup, just in case they want some guitar. And, and they're just, you know, the drummer's like, get this dude out of here. Like, what is he doing? But they gave me the chord structure to one of their songs and on the spot, instantly, I was messing around with it, throwing in some octaves, throwing in some harmonies. And that song ended up being It Almost, which now coincidentally is my favorite song. And in my opinion, the best sounding recorded one for this EP. So it's kind of funny how that all worked out. But yeah, dude, the second we were playing, we were laughing, looking at each other, you know, and then after the song was done, he was like, dude, this kid got it on the first try. Like, this kid knows what's up. And I was like, hey, man, I paid $60,000 at UMass. I hope I can figure these two chords out.
But you bring that jazz training into that. I mean, it seems like that would have served you really well coming in, seeing what the chords are and seeing, okay, what can I do inside of that?
Oh, absolutely. This the first thing I did, the first chord, throw in an octave, second chord, throw in a major 7. And to this day, my singer's like, that's the best harmony I've ever heard. And I'm like, elementary, my man.
What makes a bass player and a drummer click? Is it just there? Is it just chemistry? You know, what's the sweet spot?
You know, I don't know. It's just in my head, it's always like, no matter what, you guys are the rhythm section. And when we were doing shows, we've played shows where there's just such a small stage that we can't fit everybody on the stage. So typically I'd always say like, you know, how about Vasquez and Hurley? They go in off the stage in the front, and then Ross and I can sit in the back, and we'll just be on the back of the stage, just doing our thing. You know, it started from there, and then comes to find out he's as into like coffees and espresso as I am. And I'm not joking. For the first like 6 months of us meeting each other and getting to know each other, every single night, Pub 65, double shot of espresso. And we would just sit there and talk and get to know each other. And I'm not joking when I say 7 nights a week. Oh, wow. Now we've because he's tired from his union job, it's like 5 nights a week. But
that's all.
Yeah, that's it.
You mentioned Pub 65. You played there a few times. Is that one of your go-tos in terms of playing? I tend to see you're playing there pretty frequently. Or at least
yeah, definitely. Chad and Jessica, those people take phenomenal care of us. The staff there is great. Ross has been in a relationship with one of the waitresses for over a year now. So it's definitely like we have an in. And dude, I mean, the last Pub 65 show we played there, I'm not joking, and I never thought this would ever happen in our lifetime. People were waiting outside of the door to come hear us. People standing, didn't even want to get food or drinks, stood against the wall just so they can hear us play, you know? Wow. And that's just like I said, never thought it would happen. At least not now when we get a little bit more of a following. Yeah, but yeah, that last show that we had there was mind-boggling.
Are there any other go-to places for you? Any other places you like to hit when you're out playing?
No, a lot of times we're trying to, like, the VFWs and everything are really good. And anybody that is like getting into the music scene, VFWs are a fantastic place to go. But definitely like we are reaching out and going to bigger like venues, and we're kind of expanding a little bit more. You know, a lot of times it was, you know, the smaller restaurants and everything, but you know, we did 2 Wheaton shows, you know, one playing with a national act. We've played the Vault twice. We've played out a festival in Providence, few places out in Boston. We're starting to like leave the nest, and
Yep.
we don't want to just, as much as we love New Bedford and we are 100% going to keep playing in New Bedford, we just need to expand a little bit more to get a little bit more of a following.
Yeah. I mean, Providence is key. Boston. Are you
Mhm.
looking beyond that? Like, you got an EP coming out. You've got a great band, terrific songs.
Thank you. Once the EP is out, I tell people all the time, like, these shows are awesome and we get a huge response every single time. The problem is at the end of the day, we don't have a product. So I think having this EP will be the last cogwheel to getting the machine running, and just having something that people can actually go back to and listen once they hear us play live,
So once this is done recording, this isn't going to be streaming only. Like, you'll have CDs.
Oh,
Are you going that
absolutely.
direction? Yeah.
We got merch concepts. We've got shows lined up. We're in talks. My buddy Ross, he knows every single. I swear, I can leave the state with the guy, and he'll bump into somebody, be like, "Ross, my man, it's been years," And yeah, dude, we just have so many good connections, so many good friends, especially people like I mentioned before, Concept, Sean Carney, all these. They're such a good, like, supportive music, just vibe, just energy out in New Bedford, especially. Like, people really underestimate how much local acts work with each other to help everybody grow.
It's tremendous. There's a great community here. And what's interesting to me is that you have a lot of disparate elements to the community. Like, you have a singer-songwriter element, you've got more of a metal contingent, you've got an indie rock contingent, but all these people know each other. So it's a much broader community made up of these, smaller factions. And that's one of the things I love about it, how diverse it is.
Oh yeah.
When you talk about like renting the VFWs, it does remind me that one of the things I felt has been missing for a while is the fact there isn't that smaller club, that one below the vault, that place, like, you think of Askew in Providence or Sophia or Middle East upstairs in Cambridge. I mean, what kind of impact do you think a small club like that could have in New Bedford and the South Coast if we could get a place just for bands?
I think the closest thing we have to that is, I would definitely say Cisco's. It feels almost like Cisco's is like borderline a venue first. That's just the vibe I get from it, because there's such a great music response from there. And I mean, we've seen the payout. You go to Cisco's any weekend, you're going to see packed house and a live band just blowing people's minds away. And I think it shows that, the more you invest into the music, it's not only, community wise beneficial, but like, it's pretty apparent that these venues are making a good amount of money off of, just people wanting to have a couple of drinks and listen to some good music,
Yeah. All righty. I'm just going to pause for a second and look at my list, because I'm a little stuck, which, this is only my second time doing this. So
you're doing fantastic, man. You're doing way better than I could.
So I did want to talk a bit about the sonics, because I love the sonics of the band. When I talk about the sonics, like, the delays, the reverbs, filtery sounds, I hear like even like guitar synth. How do you find a way to blend all these different sounds into Immuter?
If you want the honest answer, man, it's just a disgusting amount of hours of just experimenting. There's definitely, you've listened to the old recordings, which were all done by our singer. And when I mean by all done, I mean like those drums, bass, guitar, vocal, everything is him. He's the only person. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, those are made before even Hurley was in the band. That's how old that stuff is. And yeah, it just he experiments a lot with sound and everything. His biggest influence is Radiohead. And you can definitely pick up when he's doing his own thing. You can definitely get a Radiohead vibe, that very atmospheric. And him and his father, man, they will sit down and do hours on hours of research. And it's quite impressive how much knowledge they have, especially the father. Mr. Vasquez is probably musically one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. That guy knows not only about the actual playing of music, but every aspect of recording, sound, engineering. God, that dude is just absolute genius, and we're so happy to have him as, you know, somebody backing us up. But there's definitely, I've definitely critiqued him. I think I've critiqued him the most. Out of love and respect, it just is what it is. You know, I tell him all the time, like, you listen to Passerby, and then you listen to something like Just More, and I'm like, you can't even understand what you're saying because there's so much reverb on your voice alone. Yeah, it just sounds like you're singing in a church that is like a mile away. It's just that much echoiness. And I just told him, like, you got to just have a little bit more of that music confidence and just go off of the raw sound of your talented voice, or, you know, off of your guitar playing. Not everything has to have layers and layers of delay and everything. And sure enough, you can hear it in Passerby. You can hear a lot of the clean guitar tones. You know, on the lead guitars, you know, especially the distorted stuff, there's going to be a little bit of reverb, but you can hear like that twingliness of like the acoustic guitar, and it really shines. And I said, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you, if it just sounds good, it doesn't need that level of, you know, reverb and all that kind of stuff.
What you're pointing to is a lot of times that stuff is something you can hide behind. Like, if you're not confident in your voice, though he's a really good singer and should
Phenomenal,
be, you know, but a lot of times as singers, I say this myself as a singer, that it can be hard to listen to myself. And there's a temptation to hide behind reverb, delay, throw something on it because it's a distraction. Like, okay, well, you know, people hear my voice, they'll hear this other sound, but there's a lot of power in just the voice being out there or the core sound being out there, rather than cluttering up the sound spectrum with a lot of different sounds. And I think that's the thing that impresses me live is, and maybe it's because, you know, live you have your effects pedal boards, like that's what you've got, and you can't go bring in something else. So it seems like live you can blend those sounds in a way that's a lot easier, whereas in the studio you could get tempted into, oh, here's a nice effect, I'll throw this on it.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I say it all the time. Like, people want to listen to Immuter, not FL Studios effects catalog. You know,
that also makes me wonder what, you know, once you guys got together playing those songs, how did those singles get transformed into the live versions? Because, you know, you had a template, but you also want to be able to have your sound as the four of you in that room.
Yeah. So at this point, I actually view those four songs as more like templates for like what we actually do now. We have Just More. Just More is very much the closest one to how we play live and everything. But yeah, it's very, there's a huge difference for anybody that's not heard. The live version of our songs is so different from the recorded versions, which is why we're definitely pushing the EP, because we need something that's a little bit more true to us and also higher quality. Yeah, that was literally like just us sitting down for literal weeks and going, you know, for our 2-hour practice, going over like what we can do and what we can't do. Because, you know, a lot of people don't, you have the ear for it, and I know you can probably hear it, but there is a lot of layers to the like the records. You can hear tons and tons of stuff. I mean, even on Passerby, I'm not joking, I think there was probably around 20 guitar tracks alone, you know? Yeah.
Wow.
And even in music standards recording, that's actually not that much. It can be like, you know, whenever you're just adding a little, you know, little things, it's not that much. If you were to do like full length, like the full song tracks of guitar, that'd be ridiculous. But it's not uncommon for there to be 20 tracks of just little things thrown in, just so to add the little bit of, you know, atmosphere to the stuff. Mm-hmm. But, you know, when it comes time to actually playing that stuff live, we had to full on like recompose a lot of the stuff, and we came to a product that we're very happy with. So a lot of the bass tracks originally were all just like root notes, quarter notes, you know, boring. Yeah. And then I said, listen, man, if I'm joining this band, I'm rewriting all this stuff. And he said, yeah, go for it. I rewrote everything, and I haven't heard a complaint since. So doing something right.
I mean, it's why it comes back to what I said earlier, is that, you know, you're carrying some of that melodic load with your bass parts. You're anchoring things while bringing more melody and harmony into it, which is what I love about your bass playing.
Thank you.
And you're locking in with your drummer at the same time. Like, that's the happy spot where you can bring some dynamics and bring some more melody into it while keeping things moving. And that
I
actually,
can't wait for you to hear that EP, man.
I desperately want to hear it now. Because I think Vasquez's recordings are still really good. Like they're better than most people's demo recordings. Like they didn't land to me as just demos. But also I can hear what you're saying, which is you don't quite have the band feeling there, and you don't have the dynamics of 4 people bringing their stuff to the mix. So that's going to be really exciting. So fingers crossed for August. That would be phenomenal. And of course, EP release at some point as well, and some shows around that would be fantastic.
We're hoping to have like a full on party and everything.
Yep.
So
any thought to re-recording the previous singles? Like those 4 songs are great songs. I think they're pretty much staples of your set.
Yeah, that's going to be the album for sure. Yeah. Those songs have been out for long enough, and anybody that is going to listen to our music already has, and they've heard those same songs over and over again. Even like I feel people are like kind of, I hate to say it, people are kind of sick of Passerby. It's our one studio recording. I think once we have this EP, people start really seeing the potential, and then hopefully we'll get picked up, and we'll just go for that album. I can't wait to record Dose and the Immuter, because the Immuter recording is, the notes are the same pretty much, but man, that feel is going to be completely different. We're going with my direction of like distortion, heavy. They won't let me shred, but yeah. for the definitely, it's going to have a way more. We want to end the first album with a banger. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any advice for bands that are coming up now?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I know it's tough in the beginning. I cannot stress to you how tough it is in the beginning. And I know it's tough, but once you find your thing that's going to like start bringing you some traction, for us, it was the VFW shows. There is nothing wrong with just talking to a VFW owner and being like, hey man, if you got a free Monday or Tuesday night, we'd love to come in and play for you guys. And you have to be, the main thing in my opinion nowadays is you got to have a social media presence.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like we have it's crazy we have a band TikTok, and we've had this band TikTok for about, I would say, a month now. And just me, posting once a week and staying up to date with it and just being social media man. All of our videos have gotten more views than our actual songs.
Oh, wow.
And it's just understanding algorithms, understanding the whole marketing aspect of music. And I'm not the greatest at it, but I definitely have like a solid idea of what it takes to get yourself out there a little bit more. And dude, if there's a band that's already established in your city, 9 out of 10 times, they're just going to be insanely down to earth people. Every once in a while in the music business, you kind of you meet somebody who might have a chip on their shoulder, but even then, the rest of their bandmates are pretty cool and stuff. Lead singer disease is real sometimes. But yeah, just communicate with them. Hey, I'm looking to get a gig. Is there any way that maybe we can open for you, or do you know any available dates at a venue that you played at recently?
Who's booking there?
Just even then, like put me in the direction of that. And also, don't be afraid to go to a restaurant and just straight up ask, like, yeah, you guys get looking for bands. That when we had no bands, no gigs, and quarantine was over, we had nothing. And my drummer and I drove around all New Bedford, Fairhaven, everything, and just went up to the owners and like, hey, I'm sorry to bother you. Do you have a minute of your time? We're a local band, and we're just trying to get our names out there. I was wondering if you would like us to play for you this weekend, or just any weekend, or even on a work night, whatever it may be. And honestly, the turning point for our band, and I've credited you this whole time, that No Prop show.
Really?
That was you. If you look at the timeline of the band, look at us from then, and then look at us from after, and it's just like because again, what I really was hounding down on before was you need to have a product. You can say and do whatever you want, but venues and owners don't really want to like put all their chips on red. You know what I'm saying? Like if they don't know what you sound like or what you do, and you don't have anything to show, same thing. Sal from Knuckleheads, he wants he wants you to give him a video of you guys playing and show, and he wants to see your set list for that place. Now, some people might have a problem with that, but you look at Knuckleheads, dude, that place has a packed house every single time a band is going, because that dude is only booking the highest quality bands that you can get. You know what I'm saying? That guy is booking, Concept, Out of Control, which my boy Nelson is in both. Much love, Nelson. You're a phenomenal guitar player. Yeah, and just don't be afraid to just take the plunge.
It's huge. Getting yourself out there is huge. Connecting with other people in the community, whether it's the music community or your local business community. It's one of the things I've loved about the AHA mini concert, which was virtual at the time that you guys performed, was that it started connecting musicians with businesses. I think you already had the connection with No Problemo, but for instance, the other artist in that video from February of 2021 was Molly O'Leary. That connected her with Anthony at the Drawing Room, played later that summer at the Drawing Room. And I mean, Molly's been out there doing a lot of stuff. I'm not here to take credit for you guys. I'm just like, it's just, to me, it's like what you guys did was you built off of that. Made a connection. 100%. Yeah. I mean, in your case, it was like, here's our demo reel. You can go watch this video and see what we do, get a sense of our repertoire. And likewise for Molly, she started off, playing solo acoustic shows. Now she's got a band. I think one of your students, Sophia, has been playing with her recently.
Oh, she's not a student. She's just a very good friend. Yeah, no, very close friend of mine. Yeah, no.
Oh, I thought she was, because I'd been looking for a bass player for a gig. So.
No. If I said that she was my student, she'd kill me.
I don't think you did. I think I assumed that. So.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Also Molly O'Leary. That's another example of just like, look what happens when you just put your name out there, man. Molly is probably one of the most talented people I've ever worked with, and I tell her all the time, man, like, you want to play with us or something, or whatever it may be, we open for you, you open for us. I don't care what it is. I would kill to share a stage with Molly again. She is phenomenal.
She's brilliant. I'm excited. She's the next person I'm going to be talking to. And she's super busy. She's like you guys, so it's June 8th when we're recording this. I asked her to do a show on Saturday, and she's already playing for 3 hours in the afternoon and then another 3 in the evening. I'm like, I don't want to wear your voice out with another hour of music. It's not worth it. But she's constantly out there, her and John Fernandez as well. And then, frequently with the band. And I think it also highlights what you're saying, which is you got to get out there, not just connecting with people, but like you see gigs, get out there and play, rent your VFW. Like renting the VFW is like an 80s punk rock move. Like that's an old move. And a lot of these things you're talking about are right out of the 1980s hardcore punk rock playbook. Rent a place, connect with people, share information, connect with businesses, all that stuff. It still works today, 40 years later.
Absolutely. I mean, those kinds of places, you're always going to have people there.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want a beer on a Friday night? You know what I'm saying? Right. People want to go to the VFW, get a good beer, and sit around.
Exactly.
Play for them.
I want to ask you before we hit the stretch run, is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't touched on yet?
So, anything that we want to talk about? Oh, absolutely. So one big thing that we have going for us right now is we're actually pushing to join, I believe it's called NACA. Are you familiar with NACA? Or
I'm not.
So NACA it's a very weird organization, and it seems like almost like a too good to be true kind of deal, but doing some research into it, it's one of the best thing that especially like younger crowd audience bands can get into. And what it is it's like a giant organization that looks to hire bands to do tours at different colleges. Now, if you look at all of our shows that we've done in the past, and I mean, we've played at some pretty big venues, the craziest response, and you said it too, man, that Wheaton show, you look at that crowd, it's a sea of people, hands in the air cheering, and that's what a lot of people want. And if you are, going for like what we're going, like a more modern 20s vibe, people, 20s, 30s, it's basically putting yourself out there to the extreme. So what's going to happen is we're going to apply to NACA, and we actually already got accepted in the first phase, which, already is like, oh man, the goosebumps. And basically we're going to be in the near future. I can't remember what the dates are, but basically we're going to be going to this convention, and it's going to be You ever been to like one of those job fair things where there's people set up with booths?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
So just imagine that, but it's bands. And you just go up to each booth and there's a band and they're displaying what they have. You know, they display their merch. They display their current products, whether it be like physical CDs or, you know, their Spotify's. And you can just show as much as you can to show how legit and ready you are for this thing. And we're going to be setting up our booth and we're just going to be talking to as many representatives as we can. And there's a chance that, you know, we'll get picked up and we'll actually go on an actual tour doing our music and that's going to be like our career. Like that's going to be paying my mortgage. That's going to be, you know, helping everybody pay their rent. It's going to be a very serious thing. And if that happens, that's, you know, it's a big deal. And a lot of people, you know, Jeremy Zucker, Doja Cat, J. Cole, these guys were doing this.
Yeah.
Now there's a high priority NACA level and there's a low priority, and stuff like us, like we're obviously low priority, and Doja Cat and all that stuff, they're the high priorities. But you know,
that's
this
how you
is
build a reputation to become a higher priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like we do a show at a college, and I know it's not the millions by any means, but like, you know, we're having 50 or 100 people follow us on our social medias after a show. We're having people take photos with us. I mean, dude, the number of people that we took photos with after our second Wheaton show was insane. And such a humbling experience because, you know, it was like finally the payoff, you know, like people actually respect and like us. And if we do end up getting selected and everything, I get to pack my bags, man, and I get to go play my music, my tracks for life. And it's beyond anything that I imagine would happen in my life.
Can you spell NACA for us, just because folks who might be driving, listening?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. I'm gonna pray this is right, but I think it was NACA. Just
all right.
Yeah.
And college circuit is huge. Like, you have kids who are ready to rock out and party, and it's a pretty good paying circuit, and it always has been. So it's a huge place to crack if you're, a young band. So if you're a young band listening to this, young musician, look out for NACA, because that's a pathway to starting a career.
Even if you can't get into the NACA, if you have a friend that's at in a college, just eventually somebody will have a connect to either like I had mentioned before, the guy who organizes the parties and stuff, organizes the festivals, or you could just kind of like promote yourself on a campus. There's nothing stopping you from just putting a flyer on the wall. They don't care. When I was at UMass, I used to put the band business cards on the walls. I didn't care, and if nobody else cares, it's cool. So
I think that's another aspect you're hitting on is promotion. Like, if you got a budget to do business cards, I mean, Vistaprint business cards are not expensive, or posters or whatever.
I know this is audio, but
there's an Immuter business card, with the band name, with band art, website. I'm guessing social media handles, email.
So I'll just describe it for the people. So we've got the classic Immuter up the top, and we have the woman. This woman thing was designed before I joined the band, so I can't answer anything about that. But it has the website immuter.com, and then it has everything we're on: Spotify, Apple Music, etc. And then we also have our personal contacts. And another thing that I also want to mention too, I know it's not that big nowadays. I don't think it was ever that big to begin with, but like having your own website, even if it's not really getting traction and stuff, if you start promoting yourself and you give a venue a website and they see that you have a full-on organized dates, photos, all that stuff, it just adds to the legitness of how serious you are about this whole thing. And more specifically, an EPK, electronic press kit.
Yeah.
Electronic press kits are your friends. Anybody that's listening to this, make an EPK. And funny enough, our EPK still has the No Problemo concert, because that show was awesome.
Yeah.
100%. And dude, I mean, press photos and all that stuff, like, it's not just enough. And I know it's going to be like disheartening for a few people. It's not just enough to record and then just put your music on Spotify. Anybody can do that. That's what we did. I mean, those recordings, like I said, those are recorded in our basement. It doesn't take much to get out there.
Especially now. I mean, it's accessible to everyone, which is great, but then to separate yourself is a whole other matter.
Yeah, and if you want to really have a chance at this, like we're getting now, you got to just push just a social media presence and just like actually promoting yourself. Start local, build a small following out here, and then once you can prove that people like you, then you start going for the for the whale. Start going to the Wheaton colleges, the vaults, the electric haze venues, those kind of stuff. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. Worst you get is no.
And the best you get is a gig, and maybe you get a few new fans, and you make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome. Adam, anything else?
Nah, eat your vegetables, do your homework.
Stay in school.
Yeah.
All right. Adam Gomes from Immuter, thank you very much for joining us today for the Artist Index. Really appreciate it.
Before we go, what's up with you, man? What are you doing nowadays?
What I'm doing is I've got Unexpected Music. So that's the music series that is in the non-traditional performing spaces. I would love to start getting into spaces where bands could play because, I love the VFW idea, but that, I'd like to do something where, say, a business that has the space and, potentially could be a little bit more soundproofed, could host people. But right now it's mainly like singer-songwriter duos. I'm doing my own stuff. I'm actually wrapping up an EP called NB Waves. It's actually up in Boston with my friend Pete Weiss for mixing. And it's a project I did through the New Bedford Whaling National Historical Park. I baked some of the sonic DNA of New Bedford into the music, created samples from different field recordings I did around businesses and downtown on the waterfront and up at Kilburn Mill. So I've got 6 pieces of music, 2 proper songs and some instrumentals, and that'll be actually coming out in the fall as well. And just playing the odd shows here and there, having fun.
I gotta like do something, dude, because I feel like I follow your stuff. I just never see like Facebook is just awful when it comes to stuff. Unless you're like liking every single post, like you just everybody completely leaves the feed and everything.
Yeah,
like Sean Carney.
Well, it's tough because I've had things that I've posted and they literally get no response because of the algorithm. The algorithm buries it. So, maybe I need to take some of your advice. Have the website up, the EPK, and all of that. Because the last thing I want to ask you about is what content do you put on the TikTok? Because I'm a dad. My 11-year-old is a TikTok fiend. I might get her to run my TikTok, but what do I need to do?
All right, so you got to find just a trend, more specifically a sound that's huge, and just make the funniest TikToks that you can. Even if it's like a slideshow over an audio, as long as people laugh, dude, you'll win the hearts of the masses. Trust me.
Okay, I'll be getting with my daughter tonight to lip sync to Running Up That Hill because that's the hot thing on TikTok. I've heard it in just about every pitch. I love Kate Bush, but man, I've heard that pitch shifted like chipmunk sounds, and it's
that's like listen. I'm all good with like creativity of music and doing your own thing with stuff, but like, dude, every song it's either like triple octave pitch shift or it's the slowed down with insane amount of reverb, like a disgusting amount of reverb.
Oh my god.
And it was cool for the first 500 songs, but dude, every trend now it's just that.
Don't they know that Kate Bush already sings really high up? You don't need to send her up 3 octaves. She's already there.
I feel like the Chipmunks would just make a killing nowadays. If they came back nowadays, this is like the time to do it.
I swear to God, my daughter's been watching the Chipmunks movie from like 7 years ago or whatever, and I think it's because she's hearing Kate Bush Chipmunk sounds. She hasn't watched that in like 3 years, and now it's like, oh, I'll watch that again. I wonder why. Because you're hearing chipmunks singing on TikTok constantly.
Dude, that and like stuff like Among Us, like video games, Fortnite, Among Us, anything that like a little kid is into, it just becomes like, it's either the people that are wicked young and they just love it and they post about it, or it's the people like my age and up who just, their personality is like hating that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of stuff too, you can like either join in on the youth or just go against them. Either way, you'll get a following.
All righty. Adam Gomes, thank you so much, sir. This has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. I would love to do this again sometime.
Thanks for joining us for another In Focus podcast, which is generously sponsored in part by Heavenly Spirits Importers and funded in part with grants from the New Bedford Cultural Council and the Fairhaven Cultural Council, local agency supported by the Mass Cultural Council, a state agency. I'm Scott Bishop, and thanks for listening to the Artist Index.
We'll see you next week for another episode of the Southcoast Artist Index podcast. To learn more about the Southcoast Artist Index, visit theartistindex.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Be the artist you believe you are, and let's take care of each other out there.